अगर हम हर छोटी चीज पे लोगों को हाँ बोल देंगे तो हमारे हाँ की अल्टीमेटली कोई वैल्यू बचेगी ही नहीं। योर येस इज लाइक अ डोरवे एंड योर नो इज लाइक अ वॉल। आप लोगों से ना सुनना अवॉइड कर सकते हो, मगर किस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम तक? कभी ना कभी तो वो आपसे ना बोलेंगे, कभी ना कभी तो वो आपको रिजेक्ट करेंगे, कभी ना कभी उनके पास ऑल्टरनेटिव होंगे जो आपसे भी बेटर। Right, guys, welcome to the first episode of my challenge of reading 7 books in 7 days. So, today we are talking about Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. So, this is the book. It is a compilation of 9 chapters. And today I'll be actually talking about 2 specific chapters that have had a huge impact on my personal life. Chapter number 3 actually talks about You're Not Special, whereas the chapter 8 talks about the importance of saying no. So basically, we are going to break down all these 2 chapters today, and I am going to share my favorite excerpts, favorite lines from both of these chapters. So when talking about this book is a counterintuitive approach to everything that we have been fed by the society and our peers. Actually, all of us have been at a state in our lives where we have felt that the conventional path or the conventional way has not been working perfectly for us. So in order to break all the things that have been working as an obstruction for us, here is this book that talks about the counterintuitive approach that can be used in the important segments, important aspects of our life. So basically, I will be breaking down this whole a segment of 2 chapters into 3 parts, which is, first of all, I'll be underlining the favorite excerpts, then I'll be understanding the favorite excerpts, and then we'll be talking about the conclusion. So the chapter actually begins when Mark Manson actually describes his 20s, that how his 20s were and what were the things, what were the obstacles, and what were the kinds of people that he actually faced on a daily basis. So he specifically talks about a guy whose name is Jimmy. Jimmy is a complete spoiled kid who's spending his and splurging his parents' money, and he has no real intentions that what he has to do in the near future. Jimmy was also a deadbeat, all talk and no walk, stoned a majority of the time, and spending as much money in bars and fine restaurants as he did on his business ideas. Jimmy was a professional leech, living off his family's hard won money by spinning them as well as everybody else in the city on false ideas of future tech glory. Jimmy was living in a delusionistic world where he actually had his privileges and he was not willing to sacrifice anything in order to achieve the biggest glory of his life. Jimmy was someone who was living in a narcissistic bubble where he was so overly confident about himself that he actually paid no heed about what is happening around him. When author talks about Jimmy's character traits, it somehow signifies us and how at some situations or in some points in our lives we have been or we have behaved like Jimmy. Jimmy was a guy who was overly confident and his confidence had no clarity at all. And when his confidence had no clarity, it was simply signified as stupidity. Now let's talk about the second most favorite excerpt from this whole chapter. It turns out that teaching people to believe they are exceptional and to feel good about themselves no matter what doesn't lead to a population full of Bill Gates and Martin Luther Kings. It leads to a population full of Jimmys. Very rightly said. Jimmy, the delusional startup founder, Jimmy, who smoked pot every day and had no real marketable skills other than talking himself up and believing it. Wow, it actually describes that how in this game of modernity we are only taught to strive for things that are exceptional for us. And I think this is the whole game played by social media as well. They are actually convincing us to believe that we are only made for extraordinary things. यानी कि हमारा existence कहीं ना कहीं सिर्फ अच्छी चीजों के लिए ही बना हुआ है. And that is totally false, because this pursuit will actually take us nowhere. When talking about Jimmy, Jimmy had no real intentions in his mind, and he was only splurging the money that his parents actually gave him. And in order to break down everything that Jimmy did in his life, we need to understand that where his approach is actually taking him. His approach is actually leading him to a point from where he could actually not come back to the usual state of his life, because whatever the money he is getting, he is actually getting it on a granted basis. Okay, after a point of time, that money is also going to fade away, and the people who are sticking with him are only sticking for the money and not for his character. So when moving forward in this chapter, we are also told that how easily we get entitled to good things, and the only basic thing that we forget about getting entitled to good things, while getting entitled to good things, is that our sacrifices are not at all measurable to the amount of success that we actually want in our lives, because the sacrifices are very minimalistic and the success that we want to taste is very highly rated. And this is the false approach that we teenagers actually have in our teenage years. We do not want to work hard. We do not want to do something that could make us stand out from the group or the herd of people who are following the conventional path. The only thing that we want to do is that we want to taste success at a lower stakes and at low cost. Now let's talk about the second excerpt from the book that actually caught my eyeballs. So the excerpt is somewhat like, but entitlement is a failed strategy. It's just another high. It's not happiness. The true measurement of self-worth is not how a person feels about her positive experiences, but how she feels about her negative experiences. Wow, it actually forces us to think on a different territory actually. Because at the end of the day, we are only thinking about the positive experiences that we are gathering in our lives. We never pay attention to, or we never observe the negative things happening to us, or the negative patterns that we repeat on a perpetual basis. We only evaluate our progress, we only evaluate our contribution into this entropy by thinking about that what are the positive things that we are doing on a day-to-day level. We are not giving a heed, we are not paying any attention to what are the negative things that is harming our circle, that is harming people around us. So it is a very tweet worthy line actually. Moving on, let's talk about the conclusion of this particular chapter. So on the page number 61, I have marked few lines which actually derive the whole essence of this chapter, and it is somewhat like, a lot of people are afraid to accept mediocrity because they believe that if they accept it, they'll never achieve anything, never improve, and their life won't matter. We all are afraid to accept mediocrity because no one wants to finish last. Everyone actually wants to come at the top. Everyone wants to be at the limelight. Everyone wants to be around the hype. No one wants to finish last. Everyone is afraid of failure. So it is very well articulated, actually. Now, moving on, it talks about the rare people who do become truly exceptional at something, do so not because they believe they are exceptional. On the contrary, they become amazing because they are obsessed with improvement. Now you got to understand that what was the real essence of this whole particular chapter. It actually boils down to one single point, and that is to keep on improving and to keep on maintaining that efficiency on a regular level. And the end actually talks about people who become great at something become great because they understand that they are not already great. They are mediocre, they are average, and they could be so much better. The constant phenomena of making yourself incrementally better, of making yourself 1% better each day is actually something that actually carries us to success. हम बहुत बार ऐसा सोचते हैं कि after achieving something or after reaching a particular point, it is the end. No. Success is not the final destination. You always have some scope of self-improvement or improvement even after you have achieved a particular milestone. And it is you who's going to find out that what are the areas or what are the zones where you can actually improve and become the best version of yourself. So this is the essence of this whole chapter, and it is a very gripping chapter when you are actually focusing on the nuances of this particular chapter. Now let's talk about the 8th chapter, which is the importance of saying no. We have been struggling to say no to the people who are around us because we have a constant fear running in our mind that if we are going to say no to somebody, the consequences are going to be difficult. What happens if the other person gets offended by our no? But at this point in time, you have to take a moment and think, are you actually close to that person? If you are so close to that person, then how's your opinion going to affect the other person? If the other person cannot respect your opinion or priorities, then he or she is not meant to be with you. So this is specifically something that we are going to talk about in this particular chapter, and that is rejection makes your life better. So when talking about underlining the excerpt, the first excerpt that I wanted to underline was from the page 170 under the para rejection makes your life better. Positivity consumer culture, many of us have been indoctrinated with the belief that we should not try to be as inherently accepting and affirmative as possible. Open yourself up to opportunities, be accepting, say yes to everything and everyone, and so on. But we need to reject something. Otherwise, we stand for nothing. If nothing is better or more desirable than anything else, then we are empty and our life is meaningless. We are without values and therefore live our life without any purpose. Wow. This actually talks about that अगर हम लाइफ में हर चीज को हाँ करते रहेंगे और हर किसी के सामने if we are going to behave as a submissive person, then eventually in the longer process we are going to lose our value. You know, your yes has a significant value that is associated to you. Okay, the more you repeat the term yes, the more submissive you become in front of other people. अगर हम हर छोटी चीज पे लोगों को हाँ बोल देंगे तो हमारे हाँ की अल्टीमेटली कोई वैल्यू बचेगी ही नहीं. योर येस इज लाइक अ डोरवे एंड योर नो इज लाइक अ वॉल. अगर आप लोगों को हाँ बोल दोगे तो दे यूज दैट डोरवे टू एंटर योर लाइफ. लेकिन अगर आप लोगों को ना बोलोगे, दैट नो विल बिकम एज अ बाउंड्री, एज अ वॉल, एंड पीपल विल नॉट ब्रीच दैट बाउंड्री इफ दे आर actually respecting you and if they are actually loving you. The avoidance of rejection is often sold to us as a way to make ourselves feel better. But avoiding rejection gives us short term pleasure by making as rudderless and directionless in the long term. Yes, definitely. You can avoid rejections, but up to what extent? आप लोगों से ना सुनना अवॉइड कर सकते हो, मगर किस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम तक? कभी ना कभी तो वो आपसे ना बोलेंगे, कभी ना कभी तो वो आपको रिजेक्ट करेंगे, कभी ना कभी उनके पास ऑल्टरनेटिव होंगे जो आपसे भी बेटर हो. समवन इज बेटर देन us, then it's our opportunity to learn something from those people. ऐसा नहीं है कि if someone is good, that does not mean कि वो आपका enemy है or if you have to seek any sort of vengeance with that person. No, it's always an opportunity to learn something from that person. And this is what Mark Manson is also trying to describe in this particular para. Short-term pleasure by making as rudderless and directionless in the long term. That short-term pleasure is very temporary. It is going to fade away after a point of time. If you are seeking for something that can be existing for a longer period of time, then you have to accept the rejections. Then you have to practice saying no. To truly appreciate something, you must confine yourself to it. There's a certain level of joy and meaning that you reach in life only when you have spent decades investing in a single relationship, a single craft, a single career, and you cannot achieve those decades of investment without rejection, without rejecting the alternatives. Wow. This line is simply very beautiful. It means that no matter whatever art you are making, every art will have some constraints around it. No matter whatever painting you are drawing, every painting is made on a canvas that is limited. There is no canvas that can be extended till eternity. There is no music that can be played till eternity. Every art earns its meaning through the constraints, and music that goes on forever becomes noise. So you have to accept the fact that rejections are only an investment into your portfolio of character building. And if you face rejection at a point in time, that does not mean that your self-estimation will dip down. It only means that you are learning and you are growing better as a person. I do not know that how well I described and how well I narrated these chapters to you, but my intention, my motive was to spread the word of these chapters around you. Do like the video, do share the video, and if you like this series that we are going to continue till 7 episodes, then do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Until next time, cheers.